What type of bread is the best for your health? Our health advice: of all the types of bread, organic wholemeal bread has the best nutrient intake, whether or not it is supplemented with seeds and cereal. The bread? So Frenchy. It has long been a food icon in our counter. A tourist entering a French bakery is always amazed by the diversity of what is on offer. Country bread, rye bread, wholemeal bread, traditional baguettes, spelled, barley, oat, poppy seed. There is something for every taste. But without the nutritional intake and health benefits necessarily being there. Because the fibers, macro and micronutrients provided actually depend on how the flour, then the bread will have been made. A century ago, hundreds of varieties of wheat were grown in France, but today there are only a few dozen, and the varieties have completely changed. Laments nutritionist and researcher emeritus Denis Lairon. A phenomenon of forced industrialization and mechanization of baking, accompanied by extremely powerful mechanical kneading, has led to the selection of wheat with large protein. They are what make up the gluten and allow the bread to rise rather than flatten like a pancake when baken. However, according to the researcher, their large size would have its share of responsibility in the increased frequency of cases of gluten sensitivity. Complete and preferably organic. But this is not the only problem that those who eat industrial bread are potentially exposed to, because, in addition to the varieties of wheat, what has changed is also the mode and time of fermentation of the bread dough. The longer this fermentation, the more the gluten proteins are pre-digest. But, because of imperatives of productivity and profitability, the fermentation time is often shortened. In addition, the sourdough traditionally used for this fermentation is most of the time replaced by baker's yeast. However, as Denis Lairon explains, leaven leads to the development of yeasts with alcoholic fermentation, but also of bacteria whose lactic fermentation acidifies the bread dough and activates enzymes. These enzymes are useful for pre-digesting proteins, but they also degrade a molecule that makes minerals such as zinc, iron, magnesium or calcium assimilable. In other words, bread baked with yeast deprives us of trace element. And it will be all the less interesting from a nutritional point of view as the flour used to make it will have been refined. White bread, therefore refined, has long been better considered than gray or black bread, which had very bad press, comments Denis Lairon, whereas, nutritionally speaking, it is exactly the opposite. In white flours used today, we have lost 3/4 of the minerals, vitamins and fibers. They will be found in wholemeal breads, generally made from wheat, but which may contain other cereals. They are made of a flour where all the grain has been preserved with the germ, the reserves, almond, and the envelope, his. But if you choose your wholemeal bread, it is better to bet on the organic farming label. Non-organic cereals are, in fact, treated during their cultivation, then during their storage, and it is essentially on the envelope of their grains that pesticide residues are found. As for multigrain bread, you should know that its flours are not necessarily complete.